Well, hello. Today's the 1987 Ator movie, Iron Warrior. A young brother is kidnapped by the evil witch Phaedra while playing ball with his other brother. The witch is sentenced to banishment for 18 years by her fellow witches. Of course, after 18 years, she comes back with the kidnapped boy as her warrior. This warrior overthrows the king, but the 18-year-old princess escapes, only of course to be captured again. Ator, though, comes to the rescue, and he goes back to the kingdom and finds that there's a puppet on the throne. He battles the skull warrior by throwing and catching spears with each other. Then he takes the princess to the village her father grew up in. Only everybody there has been killed. They have to fight some evil guys, and they fall off a rope bridge. But then they meet a good witch who tells Ator that the guy in the stainless steel mask is his brother that was kidnapped. He is given a quest to retrieve some bullshit box on some island. They have to avoid rolling boulders. They have to figure out some bullshit mirror of power to enter the temple. They do find the bullshit box and manage to take it and escape before the island sinks into the sea. Only the bullshit box is actually a fake, and Phaedra has the real one. She puts the good witch into a block of ice. Ator then has to confront and kill his brother in the stainless steel mask. Stuff happens and the princess ends up hanging from a cliff. Ator does arrive and tries to stab Phaedra. Only Phaedra can't die, and she taunts him for it. Fortunately, though, witches are very flammable, and Ator manages to set her on fire so she could go plunging to her death over the cliffs, and then him and the princess can live happily ever after. So this movie was the third Ator film done, starring Miles O'Keefe. Now, the producer originally wanted to do the third Conan the Barbarian and tried to get the rights from De Laurentiis, who obviously decided that he was wanting to do his own third movie, and this was something too good to just sell to this guy. So they went to Plan B and did an Ator movie. Now, yeah, it's probably good because you really don't want to piss off the Robert Howard fans. I mean, I guess Ator, their fans are a lot more forgiving. Yeah, this was done by a different director in that. And Ator really looks a lot different from the first two movies. He got rid of the Farrah Fawcett hair and they kind of just slicked it back and put it in a ponytail. And it looks like he's a bit slimmed down too. And he had a lot of kind of weird hairdos in this punky thing, I guess, from the 80s. Maybe, the princess, like, she had this, like, kind of like Brillo pad type thing on top of her head. And she also had, like, a pink colored eyelash. It was kind of funny. And, the original, apparently the director also got injured in a car accident halfway through, and it had to be finished by the producer. And this is also, it was shot in Malta, and you can see like they used the Popeye Village from the Robin Williams movie, and they also filmed in some like ancient Roman ruins and stuff. And this is probably the weakest of the movies. It didn't have Joe D'Amato, who directed the first two, and I guess he directed a fourth one which didn't have someone different than Miles O'Keefe. I mean, those movies they're all bad, but those were kind of real fun, just goofy movies. This one's really, really kind of bad. I mean, I kind of like it because I just kind of like that stuff. So, but you know who you are, and there's a kind of a really bad movie. I mean, everything's bad in it. It just kind of clunks along, with these kind of mechanical fight scenes and really bad dialogue and bad acting. And I like this one time where, Prince is telling Ator, if you go back, they might kill you. Then I will die. But that will not happen. That's his response to it. It just is really hokey. There's like no emotion in anybody's, vocabulary. They wisely threw in a bunch of gratuitous nudity throughout the film, so at least it kind of keeps your mind off the fact that the bad acting and there's a plot that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And there's like the brother who's apparently was kidnapped by this old hag, and he kind of appears throughout the movie here and there. He fights Ator once or something, but when Ator stabs him, he just disappears, and there's just empty clothing. But the second time he does fight him, and he kills him, and there's absolutely no emotion, that he killed his brother or anything, and it's just, and the plot just goes around here and there, and yeah, it had a lot of, it's a really bad movie. I gotta say that, and only people like me maybe who really kind of get enjoyment out of these bad movies would like it. And I don't know if it did any well at that. Like I say, you don't need to see the first two Ator movies, because this movie completely ignores what happened in the first two. It got its own little, sets up with the brothers, and that it completely ignores Ator's past established in like the first movie and that. So you don't need to see him. It's not. And apparently they made a fourth movie where you got Joe D'Amato. I never seen that one. It also didn't have Miles O'Keefe as Ator. But yeah, this is one of these really hokey, bad sword and sorcery movies from the 80s. So if you're a fan of that, I definitely go ahead and check it out. Otherwise, if you one of those snobs who insist on quality in their cinema, I guess you should probably just avoid this movie. And if you stuck with me this long, I thank you. You're a unique individual.